Okay, so let's start. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Gaurav from Net Impact Club, and my colleague Dia and I are your hosts for the event. We are pleased to have reputed industry experts with us to share their insights on reimagining waste management. Let me introduce you to the panel. We have Mr. Augustine Sanchez with us. He's MBA from University of Barcelona and is the projects and feasibility manager at Plastic Energy. With the mission to solving the world's plastic problem, he has worked in the industry for more than 18 years, working passionately in circular economy and sustainability of resources. Welcome, Augustine. We also welcome Ms. Charlotte. She holds a master's degree in environmental engineering and has served as a project engineer at Viola Umwelt Service. She was accountable for administration of an electronic waste recycling laboratory. In 2018, she joined the business development department of Tomra Sorting Recycling and subsequently became a manager for plastics applications within the circular economy. To enhance the usage of recycled plastics, she took a consulting role for brand owners, NGOs, and political institutions. And allow me to welcome Ms. Margarita Limcauco. She is an IE alum and co-founder of Mamu, an interesting startup that collects the byproducts from breweries and repurposes that into raw material to produce fresh gourmet mushrooms. She and her MBA classmates conceptualized this idea in the startup lab. Months later, they won the coveted IE Venture Day. A few months ago, they were awarded 10,000 euros from the EU as a grant. I'm sure she's excited to be back here and share her journey with us and talk about the importance of circular economy. She has been kind enough to also be the moderator for the event. A warm welcome again to all the speakers. I will now hand over the floor to Margarita to take the event further.
Thank you, Gaurav. As you mentioned, this is incredibly surreal for me to be here. A year ago, I was a student volunteer of the Social Responsibility Forum, and now I'm here with two phenomenal panelists. So I know that everyone's excited to hear from them, so I'll just jump into it. First, I'd like to turn to Mr. Agustin Sanchez. Welcome, Agustin. Perhaps we could take a few minutes to hear more about your work.
Okay, thank you all for your time. Do you hear me properly? Because
Yes.
I have had some technical problems. Okay, so I want to start. Trying to give you a picture of the plastic consumption and waste management. Okay, in the current situation. Okay, trying to not overwhelm everybody with figures, but the order of magnitude, okay, of the consumption of plastic in the world is about 360 millions of tons every year. Okay, we don't have really, we can imagine such a big figures. Okay, but it's about 18 millions of full truck loaded every single year. Okay, and the forecast for 2040 is about 700 million tons of plastic. Okay, trying also to explain the people where does the plastic come from. Okay, let's say obviously it comes from crude oil and natural gas mainly, about to 7%. Okay, I have a question to try to put on the camera. I hope the my connection today is Murphy's Law. Okay, it's okay. The sound
Yes,
is okay.
no problem.
Yeah.
We can see and hear you well.
Okay, perfect. Much better. I can explain to all of you. So I was saying that about 8% of the crude oil and natural gas is for the production of plastic. Okay. When we talk about plastic, we concentrate on polymers. Okay. Then I want to explain about it's difficult without images. Okay, but I'll try to change my my presentation from a visual one to a verbal one. Okay, but we have, let's say, the hierarchy of the plastic waste management. Okay, it's a pyramid. Okay, an inverse pyramid, but the inverse pyramid is the ideal picture. Okay? The real picture is a pyramid, like the Egyptian one, where sadly liquid and landfilling is the more usual waste management, also incineration, and then we step forward to recycling, reuse, or prevention. Okay, so let's say that today only about 15% of the waste plastic, is recycled. Okay, so if we see the different pictures in different countries, let's say in more industrialized countries, or in transitional, or in early stage, the picture is different, and between them. For example, the waste management in US has nothing to do with Europe. Okay? In Europe, it's more focused on incineration and landfilling, and US at the moment is more focused on landfilling. Developing countries is where we have the most leakage into the environment, sadly, because of the resources we allocate for it, and because of the quantity of waste that they finally treat. Okay, I'll explain later why plastic energy is really focused on Southeast Asia at the moment. Okay, so linear economy. Okay, personally, I see a linear economy that is obviously is to take resources, make materials and product, use and dispose. Okay, I see the linear one like our party at home. Okay, it's a party at home that where you can imagine. Okay, the typical American movie. Okay, with a party, everybody, and all the resources, taking, making, using, and disposing. Okay, nobody cares. Okay, about to do a margarita, about a lemon, you throw it away, and this is the linear economy finally. Okay, but with this kind of waste management, we can have only in 10 to 15 years. Most of you are much younger than me, so it will come soon, sooner than you think. In 15 years, it's going to be totally unfeasible. Okay, what I see is with 32% of plastics ends in the nature, more than 8 million tons of plastic every year ending in the ocean. Okay, and only 15% of plastic in recycling. Let's say it's a good party, but I would say also that our mother is just coming to the party. Okay, thankfully it's a metaphor, because only mother nature is more reasonable. But your mother is coming, and your mother is you can think is shouting at it. So this is serious, okay? Because Jacques Cousteau had a quote I love, is that if we go on the way we have, okay, the fault is our greed, and if we are not willing to change, we will disappear from the face of globe, to be replaced by the insects. Okay, so really the insects, Jacques? No. Maybe we can think on something more glamorous, okay, like the dolphins or the eagles or something like that. But this is serious, okay, because if we go this way, it's not only a blah blah blah, okay, it's a reality. Okay. So the party is over. Okay, I'm sad to say that, but okay, we were young, we had a lot of fun, but it's the time to circular economy. There is no choice, and there is no way. It's not an election; it's a must. Okay, so the circular economy. I love also a picture that it's a picture that appears a man, a primitive man with a wheel, and there are other mans with a car with square wheels. Okay, I love this this comic, and they say no thanks, we are too busy. Okay, he's with the wheels looking at them, and this is a situation for many years. Okay, we have suffering these 4 years that you try to come with something circular, but the circular is never easy because you face big changes. Okay, we need to change the allocation of human and economic resources and efforts. Okay, we need to change the paradigms of in collection, sorting, recycling, to change the whole supply chain, to change the way we produce, we consume, and dispose. It's not to go again to the primitive era. No, it's that we need to consume in other way. Okay, and maybe we need to dedicate more time cleaning our home that consuming things at home. So finally, the economic, let's say the business is still okay. You are new companies, but there are other companies that maybe need to disappear. Okay, it's a process. It's a natural process. Okay. So the new paradigm is in front of us. Okay, but I don't think I want to be optimistic. It's not a hopeless situation. Okay, I think it's a glorious opportunity for us to do something on this. So if we go more in plastic energy and circular resources, I think we are on time yet. What we do is to use from plastic waste at the end of life, okay, plastic that is incinerated or landfilling or sadly thrown into the nature, oceans or into the land, to produce again circular polymers. Okay, it's a chemical. Okay, you can look into it into our webpage, etc., or I can provide information. What we do is a chemical recycling. Okay, the chemical recycling, when we started more than 10 years ago, we started with an approach of plastic to fuel. Why? Okay, because 10 years ago, you were too young, but 10 years ago, the forecast for crude oil and diesel was more than $100 per barrel, was incredible. That was the picture 10 years ago. So we started focus on plastic to fuel, but because of the crisis of the crude oil some years ago, and because of we identified that as much value added you do to your product, the better, we move to plastic. Okay, it wasn't an easy way, but finally we can proud say that we are the leading company in circular polymers. Okay, we have a patented technology with more than 10 years. We have also industrial plants in Almeria and Seville, producing more than 5,000 tons per year of circular polymers. And we have a great pipeline of projects. Okay, we have agreements with the main petrochemical companies, with Total, Ineos, Sabic, Petronas, and also with brand owners like Nestlé, and also waste management companies like Viridor, for example. And we have a huge project portfolio pipeline, okay, in the worldwide. We are really focused in Europe, obviously, also US, and also Asia, Southeast Asia. We have I'm personally involved because I lead on the feasibility analysis. Okay, I try to land the projects in the proper projects. In Indonesia, we have a plan to develop 5 plants in the next years, because there the situation is really needed. Okay, a solution for that. Also Thailand, also Malaysia. So okay, I think from my side it's a fast review on it, and I'm happy to keep talking. Only another quote. Okay, I love Jacques Cousteau. Okay, again, you are too young maybe to know him well, but he said that now as never before, the old phrase that we are all in the same boat is better than ever. Okay, we are all in the same boat. For most of but in this century, with his beginning, we are beginning to realize that in order to survive, we must protect the nature. So that's all from the moment for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Agustin. That was quite a kickoff for our session today. I think we definitely got everyone's attention, if not for the party metaphor, but for 15 years that I think we are, well, as long as we keep going, I think we're all going to be part of this world for the next 15 years, and we need to start acknowledging that. So I look forward to breaking down your work a little more later. But for now, I'd like to turn over to our second panelist, Charlotte Glasnick, to share about her organization and her role. Hi, Charlotte.
Hi. First of all, thanks for having me. And I would actually build on that sentence. the party is over, because there's a part that he was missing, and that is now we have to clean up. And what this is about. So we have to move forward. And as much as I understand how people in the last couple of years behaved around their behavior with plastic and usage of material, so now we have to change. And this is a really exciting part, actually. So I wouldn't see it as negative. But yeah, to actually start my story on how I ended up here on this panel and talking about recycling, I didn't really know what to do after university. So I started to go to university after school. So I decided to go to university for environmental engineering, and I grew up in Germany. So we, like all of us, thought we were doing a great job. We're recycling everything. It's going to be put back into a nice little shampoo bottle or whatever. And we're doing just a fantastic job. So that's how I grew up, with that understanding. And therefore I was like, okay, I'm going to go to university, see what I can do, maybe save the world a little bit more, because we're doing such a fantastic job. And after I was done, started working for Veolia, I had to realize that that is sadly a lie. You heard the numbers of Augustine, and it's really not going that well, especially in Europe, where you expect that it would have better numbers for recycling. And so I started to go on like a little bit of an adventure hunt for clues on what is actually going wrong. And I called different companies, and I was always told, oh, the sorting is the problem. It's not about the chemical or mechanical recycling part afterwards. It's the sorting itself that presents the highest challenge. So then I called the biggest company for sorting, Tomra, and now I'm sitting here. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing that I ended up having a job with them, but after that call, pretty fast, I got the offer and started in the business development department, first taking care of everything around household waste. And now I'm a manager for plastic applications. So what I actually do is that I look, what can we achieve with the sorting to enhance the quality of the recycled goods, figure out what can we actually sort, where might be some difficulties, and then moving on to actually see what needs to be put into the waste input stream to get the best output. And that is the main focus of my job. So the all thing around feasibility and design for recycling, discussing with brand owners, NGOs, and also political figures to see what kind of regulations do we need. What kind of limitations actually do we have for the sorting? Because as it turned out, the sorting itself is not the problem. It's just that some difficulties in the product itself make the sorting difficult, and then also the recycling afterwards. So even if you think that chemical recycling, for example, could be a good solution, also that is limited to specific types of plastic, for example, that you can't just have like a big pot, put everything in, steer 2 or 3 times, and then you have a new plastic bottle. That's sadly not how it works. Nothing in life is just easy. So we have to get a little bit going on that. So that's what I'm doing. And now just a few words around Tomra itself. I'm not going to say any more numbers. Augustine put them perfectly in perspective, so I don't need to do that again. But Tomra actually started out as a company that is more or less just taking care of the reverse vending machine market. That is, like a machine in the supermarket, for example, where you put your bottles. So you paid some kind of deposit when you bought the bottles, and then you return them and get it back, just to get like an actual closed loop of PET bottles. That is mainly used in Europe. We have some Asian countries, Canada, some parts of the US where they're also using it or a similar way. And that was for a long time the main business. And the 2 people that actually started Tomra saw that there is a need for a lot of other things as well concerning sorting and therefore recycling. So they started to look and found a German company that were already producers for sensor-based sorting systems. It's a really long word, but it means that you use whatever sorter or other technical device that can somehow detect different items. That doesn't have to be plastic, it can be wood, glass, or even different types of food. And then you put it in a machine, and then you sort with a little bit of air, the different types. And they bought into that company, and then later on they moved together completely and formed Tomra itself. And now Tomra is divided 50-50 between the reverse vending machines and the sorting systems itself. The sorting systems, like I said, you can use for different things. And the biggest part for that is definitely the recycling, but also mining devices. So everything around raw earth or stones and whatever else you might find there. Diamonds is definitely a nice thing to sort with our machines. And then another really big part is food itself. So trying to minimize any kind of waste there as well. So it's for Tomra, it's not just circularity in the waste management, but for more or less every type of resource that we have. And that is what I do and what Tomra does. And I'm really excited for the questions.
Thank you, Charlotte, and thank you both for your introduction. So I think we got everyone excited about the circular economy. As Agustin mentioned, it's taken a while for this to really come into play, to come into discussion. And especially now that we're with master students, future professionals, and also entrepreneurs. I think we have a special responsibility to kind of help them think differently, start shifting their mindset for business and just our roles in the world. So I guess my first question is to Charlotte. As you mentioned, Tomra was founded, I think, about 50 years ago, just with this reverse vending machine concept, and that's incredible. So maybe you could share, like, how has Tomra been able to maintain this commitment to the principles of circular economy before there was even the world of circular economy, while also sustaining market leadership? I mean, at the end of the day, it's very ideal, but of course we want to stay profitable so that we can continue our impact. And so maybe you could share a little bit about Tomra's best practices and what we can start thinking about for the future.
I actually think when you word the question like that, it sounds as if one thing can't exist with the other thing. And obviously this case of Tomra shows that that's not the case. Just because we have that ideal view of we want to save the planet and we want to sort, we want to reduce waste or wasteful behavior in general, doesn't mean that we then therefore can't be profitable. So obviously it's working together. As long as you have a good business idea and do something that is actually beneficial to a lot of people, it's not going to mean that you can't be sustainable in the things you're doing. So just because that is our idea, we're obviously not completely losing the fact that we also have to pay our bills and we have to pay salaries to people. So obviously we want to be economically feasible. But in whatever we do and whatever new product we launch, the first question is always how can we actually benefit not just ourselves through profit, but what can our machine actually help reduce or enhance? So that's the first question we always have whenever we're producing anything new.
Great, fantastic. And I think we'll dive into that later in the follow-up questions, but I'll just turn over to Agustin for now. And speaking of, the many advantages to pursuing the circular economy, we see that you could potentially lower costs and, attract this new segment of customers who are very environmentally conscious and worried about our planet. But specifically, in your case with Plastic Energy, what benefits or advantages have you seen as a result of operating a circular business?
Mhm. Okay, I think Margarita, you are also in the circular market, so you know well that there is I think my personal view is there is a misconception or misperception that because in circular your raw materials or waste are lower at cost, that means that the business model is going to fly. Okay, and from my experience, it's just the opposite. Okay, you have most of the time higher cost. Okay, because from the cheaper virgin materials that the linear economy still uses, because at the moment it's not a problem of scarcity yet. Okay, there is not a problem of scarcity yet. It will be, but not today. So they have cheaper virgin materials, much bigger scale, and much mature processes. Linear economy than we have. So the benefits, as you ask, the benefit and advantage of circular economy at the moment is to be disruptive and to put in place your value added in front of a linear economy. This is the picture today. Okay, tomorrow will change for sure, but today this is my opinion.
Perfect. And I agree. Actually, even for us, we were reutilizing an organic byproduct, and to process it actually cost more. And I guess you're right that there's so much to learn about the circular economy principles, and hopefully as it grows, it becomes more economically um, sustainable. But at least for now, as you said, it's disruptive and it's catching attention and support. So we're lucky. But I guess maybe for both of you, and we'll start with Charlotte, what are the challenges with operating this model, and how have your organizations been able to overcome these challenges? So we can start with Charlotte.
I actually think that Augustine said it perfectly. So the problem is, so we have more or less, we have two problems. The most difficult is that virgin material currently is cheaper. Or as soon as you implement a really costly facility, you have to have all the infrastructure, and then obviously someone that's going to buy it. That is currently so much more expensive and difficult and to facilitate compared to just landfilling or incinerating and then just buying new virgin material. Right. So that's the main problem we have. Obviously, the last couple of years, with that big movement of we have to look at our wastefulness, and we have to actually reuse as much as we can and then recycle, that helped us immensely. So just the public pressure and the movement of we have to actually question our behavior, that helped unbelievable. That is one of the biggest driver we had. And the other big part that we have is, on the one hand, difficult, but also helpful, is legislation in general. So obviously we have legislation, especially in the European countries, where they're saying you have to recycle certain amounts, and therefore obviously plant builders and all the recyclers, they're forced more or less to actually recycle. So that helps in a way, but it also is really difficult to actually move into certain applications where there's no real legislation given. So for example, if we want to move with recycled content into food contact material, it's not possible currently, because there's, on the one hand, you have countries where the legislation is actively saying you're not allowed to, as long as you can't promise me in a way, so give me kind of guarantee that it has been used for food contact material before, and that is obviously with recycled content really difficult to do. And then the other part is when the legislation is not clear. So as soon as you say, as a user of recycled content, I don't have that kind of stability given by legislation that I can actually go into food contact material. In case something goes wrong, I'm not protected. I personally would also not do that if I didn't have that guarantee either. So it works both ways. We need, on the one hand, legislation that gives us the possibility to move applications, but also gives us the security to be with us completely along the way, to actually help us in whatever question we have. So those are the main factors where we have difficulties, and we're currently trying to work on. Obviously, like I said, the public pressure helped on both fronts a lot, and that I think the biggest driver currently.
Okay, perfect. Yes, and I can imagine legislation is always very tricky, but thankfully, at least a part of it is working towards our favor for circular business models, and hopefully that's a good start, and we continue towards that. Right?
You can see the difference already. So obviously, Brussels as one big politician givers, and they're actively working on it. You can see the difficulties that they're facing, but you can also see that they're willing to hear and listen to people that are actually in that field and have that kind of knowledge, and they're actively trying to do their best to help us achieve goals of actually recycled content.
Perfect, thank you, Charlotte. And Agustin?
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. Okay, legislation is key. Okay, obviously, you need to do the legislation. Is always behind, okay, of the cutting edge technologies, but shouldn't be so slow. Okay, And for example, there are something, the end of waste, for example, the end of waste condition is something that the recycling, the mechanical recycling, not either the chemical, have been asking for many years. Okay, it doesn't make sense to don't have an end of waste condition or take so long. Our challenges treating waste and producing from waste are similar. Okay, it's to the technology robustness. Okay, for example, Tombra is a really robust equipment. We know them well, and we have, because we have chemical recycling and also mechanical recycling. Okay, so the part of us is a complementary. Okay, because we see the portfolio as a proper one. And finally, from mechanical, you derive streams to chemical. This is for us the most perfect combination. So you need to face technology robustness, process cost. We have talked about this, quality assurance. Okay, it's much more difficult to assurance a quality if you are treating waste than if you are treating a raw material.
Mm-hmm.
So putting all of this in place to overcome this, as you asked, is to tons of resilience and being imaginative. Okay, in every obstacle you are facing, every time you have a new obstacle, you are new in the market. There are no boxes for you. The people get scary, risk averse, and if I don't have a proper box to put you into it, I prefer to say no to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, you need to fine tune and to combine all these pieces to make it happen. But it's really hard.
That's actually a perfect point he just made. So obviously there is no perfect way for all of us together. We have to find some kind of individualized solution for every country, maybe for every region. It depends on how are they actually collecting the waste, what is the current infrastructure. And there might be some way where chemical recycling makes more sense, where mechanical recycling makes more sense. And it's really difficult for legislation to then pick what is actually the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of different forces, and sifting through what is honest and what is actually real and is going to help, that's difficult. And I see that obviously that takes time. It's not like a quick fix and we're going to do it within 10 days and then we're through. This takes time, but obviously put it perfectly. There are different boxes and we have to see what is like actually beneficial for which region and what kind of waste we're having.
Mm-hmm. Great. Sorry, Agustin, did you want to add anything? Or?
No, finally, is this. I think sometimes the regulation is too slow and sometimes they regulate too much. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, okay, the market, I always say that recyclable, sorry, is everything. It's a question of money. Okay. So the market decide what's recyclable or not. You can decide this is recyclable, this is not, you need to recycle this way. No, if the market doesn't pay, you can't recycle this way. Maybe technically it's possible, but the market doesn't pay for it. So as an old samurai said, that there is it's not a single weapon or a single school of art. Okay, it's a combination of all of them, and the market need to organize, because if we force the market to do something, maybe we have black markets, landfill, non-legal landfillings, etc.
Right, exactly. And since we're on quotes, I actually have one of my favorite ones from my grandfather was either you need to either satisfy a market or create one when you are doing a business. So
great.
Yeah.
And I think
actually,
that's exactly what the circular economy does right now. So it's kind of also creating the market for recycled goods, because that is currently not completely established. Obviously, you have that for PET bottles that are coming out of the vending machine market, but you don't have that for PP films. Like that is, it's not existing currently. So you have to drive that desire for people to actually use it, and therefore drive then the recycled, because one is based on the other.
Exactly.
Well, that's great. And I love this quote. I take note on this.
It's not mine, but
No,
yes,
I have no quotes. I always copy paste them.
So great. Actually, on this note of market, again, speaking because our audience are our students from IE, and I guess we have some external guests. Like, where do you see are the opportunities in creating the circular economy space? I think what's very exciting is that the linear economy is very established. You already know the players, the suppliers, the manufacturers, the distributors, and those service professionals. So the system is very well known. All the MBA and Masters in Management programs are designed around the linear economy. So where do you see are the opportunities, I guess, in the next 15 years, because it's not too far from now, as Agustin said, where people can come in, what are we missing in this ecosystem of the circular economy, so that people can start thinking about, I don't know, maybe career changes or future businesses, how they're going to instill the circular principles in their own companies. So, Agustin, go ahead.
Okay, they have to be really resilient, I have said. Okay, it's a big challenge, but I have said there is no choice and no way. And for sure, the circular economy is here to keep growing and to replace the linear economy as a concept. Okay, obviously everything is not circular or linear, but finally we need to redefine from the raw materials extraction to the design, to the concept, to the consumption. Okay, I like the quote of your father, and Henry Ford said something similar. If I have heard my customer, I have sell to them a faster horse instead of fabricating a car. So now, okay, everybody is green, but when we need to spend more money, we are not so green. But it's something it's going to change because there is no choice. So it's a growing market. It's a very outstanding market, very challenging, but it's, for me, it's incredible. And once you are here, it's a kind of, okay, of you fall in love, okay, of the circularity.
You can't go back. Charlotte.
And that's actually right. If you start working in this field once, you never leave, in one way or another. It doesn't have to be always with a recycler or a machine producer, but once you start with the circularity and sustainability, you never leave it behind. It kind of grabs you. But actually the opportunities and like it's limitless. There's so many and so many new things. So I would actually like to answer this question with an example. I don't know if you ever heard about the Holy Grail project from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. That's where it started, kind of working on its own. So whoever is interested, definitely Google that. It's a little bit like ink behind an actual picture on a product. And with that and a special camera, you can actually detect what that plastic was before, what it is, how you can recycle it, and so on, and therefore sort it perfectly and recycle it perfectly. And the good thing is about that ink, during the washing process, you're losing it again. So you can recycle it without actually moving that kind of information into the next product. And that's just an example how a new innovation and an idea could actually grow into completely changing recycling business, like completely. And if I would actually come up with a really good, I'm like a good idea, I would definitely use it for myself and not tell everyone here. So just as like an idea where you can actually move into and having some kind of idea and using technical information to actually enhance recycling of product.
Perfect. Yes, and I agree. I think to everyone that's listening, like since we're at home and if you need to take advantage of some free time and everyone is upskilling, doing Coursera courses, I highly recommend the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Their website is full of resources and terminology.
Yeah, and great projects that you can read up and get new ideas and maybe some inspiration for other ideas that would help us even more.
Right. And yeah, do you think, Agustin, are there other skills that you see that you guys have learned entering into this circular business model, or that you see would be valuable? I know there's a lot of technical skills involved in your businesses, but also maybe I think there's assessments of materials, their life cycles, any particular things that people can start reading about and learning to be relevant to the circular ecosystem.
I think that because it's circular, it's round and it's moving, it's rolling. Okay, so you need to keep learning every day because things are changing. Okay, and technologies that supposed to good now there is not maybe the best option. So and it's good for people that is starting. Okay, because you don't need to start learning from 30 years ago of again, you need to be in the loop and to understand what are the key stakeholders, to have capacity analysis, to understand the market, the supply chain, and look for gaps, finally. But changing your view, okay, it's another way to do business models. It's not the usual one. Okay, you need to take into consideration other intangibles, and you know well, for sure.
Yes, and I think that's great news for everyone that wants to get into jobs around innovation and strategy and thinking differently. I think the circular economy, as you both have mentioned, is such a new and exciting space of creating something. And yeah, I think anyone who ventures into it will not be able to step out of it, as you both have mentioned. Of course, we've received questions about how your organizations have been responding to the COVID-19 challenges, and maybe if there have been examples just this year on how your business models have been maybe advantages in these unprecedented times.
Charlotte, please.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. I was waiting. Maybe you wanted to go
Oh,
first.
sorry.
No, that's fine. Actually, for us, I don't want to say it was just easy. Obviously, the first question is always like, could we still work? Obviously, we could. We're deemed as like an essential business because waste management is not stopping. So it was actually kind of easy for us to adapt. We are a tech provider, therefore, more or less, I think 60% of our office was already done for working at home. And we had a lot of our service engineers that are actually doing all the taking care of the machines itself and the plants just from home. So that was actually really easy for us to adapt to. But the biggest challenge I actually see for the circular economy itself is that obviously, as important as COVID is, and we need to take care of this, the whole movement that we had towards taking care of plastic waste is being pushed into the background a little bit. I'm not saying that it's just false to do so. Obviously, I'm totally for taking whatever measurements we need to save as many people from coronavirus as possible. But obviously, we can't forget how important this is and how life-threatening that will also be in the future. So that is actually where I see that the biggest challenge right now for us as not just Tomra as a business, but us as a circular economy. We're all working together, and this is actually difficult for us right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I totally agree. And I have a double perception. Okay. On one way, I agree with you that obviously with such a difficult situation we are facing, COVID-19 is the focus of the society. But on the other hand, has been a surprise personally that most of the companies and the markets are boosted circularity. I don't know why really, but they are boosted. I don't know, because obviously COVID-19 is not because of the linear economy. It's not their fault. knows this, but has been a kind of signal. Okay, so for many companies to do something different, but this is my personal perception. Okay,
Right.
and I agree with Charlotte that obviously the society now is totally focused on this, and we need to do that, but we shouldn't forget all aspects of the process.
But I actually agree, and we can actually take this point as a really good starting point to move forward into something better and greater. And that does not just include waste management, obviously so much more. We see how how life can change, and then we actually are able to reduce our travel, our business travel, the overall impact on our environment. That obviously includes more than just waste, but we that this could be a starting point to move ahead and leave this behind and actually get better as a society overall.
Exactly. And I actually found finally some good news about the masks that are being used and discarded, and how there are companies that are already trying to figure out how to collect them and reprocess them, because staying safe does not have to come at the cost of the planet, is what I read, which is a fantastic news. Agustin?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Great. So I want to give
Sorry,
some time.
I was trying to. I'm really a bad multitasking. I was trying to answer a question from the chat. So
No problem.
I'm really bad multitasking.
No problem.
My wife say me I can do only one thing at a time. And it's absolutely true.
No problem. So I'll actually want to give some time to turn it over to the director of the IE Sustainability Office, Nicole Ronto, before we jump into some questions from the audience. So welcome, Nicole.
Hi, thank you for having me today. So I wanted to give a little bit of the context about the changes we've made regarding waste at the university. So over the last year, or even more, students rightly raised some concerns about the way that garbage was or was not being segregated on campus. And we knew changes were necessary. So the first thing we did was we got different colored bins in order to separate the trash. But unfortunately, that was not necessarily enough, because the bags were the same color. And once you take the bags out of the containers, it wasn't clear. I mean, obviously you could look inside, but it wasn't easily segregated. And also the other difficulty that we encountered at that time was that the bin colors mean different things in different countries. And because we have such a diverse population and students from all over the world here at IE, it wasn't clear in which container to put what items in. So we worked with the cleaning staff, we put colored bags in, and then if you've seen the waste containers on campus now, they all have a list of what goes in each container. So we think that that's a much more helpful manner for people to know how to separate the trash. The other thing that we did, which I think is a really beneficial idea for this whole infrastructure change, is that we've removed all the receptacles from offices, from classrooms, and from workrooms in order to incentivize the trash separation. Because obviously there's not going to be a whole waste system in every classroom, in every workroom. And this way, when people throw out their trash, they have to go to one of the spots that we have designated on each floor in order to separate the trash. And you might know that we also no longer buy bottled water. IE no longer buys bottled water or sells it on campus. So that has reduced tremendously our plastic waste, our single-use plastic waste. And we have the cafeterias, the canteens also complying with the same policies that we've put in place for everywhere else. This coming January, we're going to start implementing the ISO 14001. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's the environmental management system that will, a standardized environmental management system that will be put in place. It helps organizations minimize their negative environmental impact through the processes complying with laws and improving in both of those areas. So that'll give us some better internal controls as relates to waste. And so as relates to waste with the ISO, we're going to be measuring, so we'll have data to understand the amount of waste we're generating, recycling, recovering, and of course, the least desirable, sending to landfills. So I think that's about it.
Thank
You guys have any questions about what's happening at IE as relates to this?
Thank you, Nicole. You know, as a former student, I think it's great. I noticed the different colored bins, but never noticed that inside the bags, inside the bins, that the colors were different. But I think this is really, I mean, I come from the Philippines, so, you know, recycling is a bit of a not yet a mature concept in our country. Let's just say that. and I think a big challenge or a big opportunity for IE is this education. How do you now welcome students from all over the world and kind of teach? As Charlotte had said, like she had grown up with it being very natural in Germany, but that's years of education and practice, and here we are. There's different kinds of plastics. There's one material that has 4 different kinds of material in it. What about when it's exposed to food? Are there any, I guess, initiatives to, I guess, make IE students the leaders of waste management in that space?
Well, so one answer to your question is this is one of the reasons that we definitely felt it was necessary to put right on the containers what items can go into each individual space, so that way to eliminate confusion. But you are correct that there are certain things, for example, as you mentioned, food containers, once certain items have been exposed to food, and things with multiple materials. This week, people will be receiving a list of tips to help them live more sustainably. Included in that are some things about recycling, but that will be in the coming weeks, hopefully even more imminent than that. We'll be publishing a guide online that will go into detail about exactly those things. What can be recycled in what container, what can't, what needs to go to what we call in Spain the punto limpios. There's some that are, and that's where you would take things that are not so easily recycled, or you don't want to necessarily put them in the regular trash, but like light bulbs and electronics and other items, food containers, for example. So that'll be coming very soon for everyone on campus or it'll be accessible on the website. So that will give detailed instructions for the students, for everybody.
Great. So I think Dea has joined. So thank you, Nicole, for taking the time to share.
Sure,
and we're excited to see the initiatives of IE. I'll turn to Dea to help us moderate some questions that we have from the audience.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Margarita, for moderating, and thanks for all of the insights so far. We have a few questions from the audience, so I will just go right ahead and read them out loud so we can go ahead with this. So the first one was from Arjun, and it relates to rumors we've heard in Madrid and elsewhere about waste segregation that we do at home, and how, so if you can throw some light, sorry, let me read this again. So the waste segregation that we do at home is undone to some degree when the waste is collected and taken to sorting. So I think we've mentioned this a little bit, but maybe if you can throw some light on best practices when it comes to recycling, or what are the things that happen at the sorting facility, and how we can prevent this from recycling at home.
maybe I just take that question. So obviously, I understand where that fear is coming from, and it's actually true that that happens from time to time. I'm not saying that that will never happen, but the good thing is, don't worry, our machines are there to sort it. So don't be too concerned. The main important thing is that's not just coming from us as a sorting provider, but like the actual recycling part. Important is to always keep dry and wet waste separate from each other. So really important is to take everything that is bio waste out of it and somehow dispose of it differently. That means either through a bio waste container, or actually when you're living outside the village, that you can actually composting it at home. So that's the most important thing, because the damage you can do to especially paper, but also plastic due to bio waste that is still containing in that part is way greater than anything if it's like put together and then has to be sorted again. The bio waste has to be kept separate. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, recycling should be clean. Usually that's the rule, right?
And if I can just add a quick tip, as you know, again, coming from the Philippines, I had no idea any of this. But my roommate had simply set up three separate trash cans to follow the bins of Madrid. And I think that's just a good way to develop knowledge on best recycling practices. So we had biodegradable, we had plastic, then we had paper and bottles. And it's just an easy, like, okay, this goes to this bin on these days. And it's just a few more IKEA bins that you can buy and keep in your home. So I recommend starting small.
Thanks, Margarita. Okay, we're tight with time, but we have time for a few more. So Anna here asks if any of you are familiar with an Eastern European phenomenon like bachiles, disposable plastic shoe covers that are obligatory in all hospitals, hairdressers, and kindergartens. Do you know whether they can be recycled? They're made of plastic and rubbers, and they're used in huge amounts, usually not being recycled. So she's trying to find a way to recycle them, if you have any ideas.
I don't know really the bachile's name, okay, but it's very usual nowadays to have multi-materials product. Obviously, a multi-material is more difficult to recycle, but okay, if you identify the characterization and the spec of the material, you have choices to do. Yeah, but it's necessary to understand better what are the kind of plastics that it have.
And in addition, that just makes it more difficult to recycle. Obviously, there are regulations for anything that comes out of a hospital. So currently, everything that is coming out of a hospital is not deemed to be recyclable. Obviously, in theory, everything is. If you just put enough energy and money into it, you can recycle it somehow. But everything that's coming out of a hospital is just due to possible infection risk and so on, and deemed to not be recyclable. Therefore, it will just get burned, sadly. But like Agustin said, as long as you know what's containing in those multi-material, you can, in theory, recycle it.
Absolutely. This point for the sanitary or hazardous material is key. And again, it's landfill or incineration. There are solutions. We need landfill and incineration for some streams, and this is one of them. Okay, what we can do is to produce a problem bigger than the first one.
Thanks a lot. The next one from Alan is, could you please talk about how waste is being reutilized in Spain today, such as biofuel, burning it with gas filters for electricity, agriculture, fertilizers, etc.? If there's a plan for this initiative. It's a broad question, but maybe we can shed some light.